LinkedIn as well, I hope. Still getting used to all of these multiple streamy things, and it's not doing LinkedIn. Did that? Oh yeah, here it comes. There we go. So I pressed go live, and the stream is going. I'll turn that. LinkedIn is. There we go. Right, we're ready. We're ready. We're ready. Always a little bit of a trick juggling all these things. Yes, we are here live, and we're talking neurodivergence and self-care today, which is awesome. One of my two favorite topics of this in this times, and I'm joined by Claudia Baquera, and
Yes.
I can't wait for Claudia to interview me, which is going to be really cool
Mhm.
this time round. So, would you like to share who you are first, though, Claudia?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Claudia. I'm the founder of Rocking Beauty Boss. I'm also a coach who focuses on skin health and holistic well-being. I am very passionate on helping people find their radiant selves from the inside out, not only through skincare, but through finding the connection between emotional health, self-love, and overall wellness. I am very and super excited to be here with Rory because conversations like this help us see how different perspectives on health and identity, like neurodiversity, connect to confidence, self care, and how we show up in the world. Can't wait to dive in. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, can you share a bit about your journey and what led you to become a neurodivergent coach?
Oh, okay. So, I it kind of goes all the way back. It goes all the way back to not knowing, being confused at school, not knowing what, no, knowing that I was intelligent, but having feedback saying that I could have tried harder, or that I wasn't able to listen properly, and things like this, which drove me to want to listen further. So it actually, one thing it did, the gift it taught me was to listen more. In I guess because maybe I heard that a lot that I wasn't listening, and so I would try listen. I guess I was trying to listen harder without actually being taught that I could exercise my voice and exercise communication skills other than what rational and logic communication was like, doing English language and literature and reading and writing, which is a great skill to learn if necessary. Except it was really overwhelming for me, and all the time-based sit-down exams, I was really struggling with all of that. And so yeah, I came away with a frustrated opinion on why it was not understood what I felt like I understood. And I could just grab hold of more creative and practical subjects. Luckily, I was in a school that celebrated those things. I did textiles as a male at that time, and I did video production at GCSE, which has got not something that some people would be doing at that age before even going on to high school or uh, yeah, or university. So interesting. Yeah. So anyway, I was frustrated, and it actually drove me to um be very upset inside internally. One-to-one talking like this would be okay with friends, and I'd skim the surface of call and response talking, and those that recognize my energy would give me time, and I'd have be friends with them. But I still didn't know how to really talk about what my feelings were like. And maybe some people have matured much quicker than that throughout the time. And I just kind of stayed at a certain par and just started to play guitar at 16 to regulate my nervous system. I didn't know that I was doing that. I was literally just playing and playing and playing because it gave me a sense of safety and a sense of skill that I could do and just focus on. So all my energy was going into that rather than practicing um, having deeper conversations or being, having uncomfortable conversations when necessary and all that kind of stuff. So it sort of created conflict avoidance and people pleasing and lots of other things that can occur through not knowing how to just talk and see what comes and so yeah, I went through a period of mental exhaustion and psychosis in my early 20s because of it. When after a breakup, I couldn't explain my emotions, but I'd already learned to automatically not judge anyone else outside of me. So in some ways, that was good because a lot of people just hold bottle in anger and blame outside of themselves. So at least I had, you know, one part of that right or good, healthy, which was to not assume anything on anyone, and give people grace for mistakes because I could play guitar and not see the mistakes in what I do and could just build on a skill. So I believe that was possible for everyone. Um, so I got the thing is it got so strong that I went through a period of psychosis,
Mhm.
uh, and then had reflexology, the foot treatment from my mother because I finally reached out. And when I reached out, um, she suggested that, and I got slightly worse before getting better again and recovered. Um, so very quickly, considering what it was, back to baseline and back to actually being happy and back to being able to function in the way I thought I was, who I was back then, which was again sort of artistic, creative, not a business person, work for other people and be frustrated with the system. Uh, and and but I was so fascinated with what else is possible to change in the background without knowing that that was the mantra I was saying. It gave
Mhm.
me a sense of, wow, what else is possible to change here? And a sense of some kind of gift that I didn't know how to explore or express.
Mhm.
It was only not that long ago in the last few years after starting to be coached that I started actually talking about that because and I think that before the pandemic as well, it was probably even more taboo to talk about mental health stuff, and people didn't
Yes.
know how to address it
Mhm.
publicly. And so I just had this again, just this knowing that, but not knowing, just knowing, but not knowing how to see how it could be possible for the world to check to learn this stuff. And so I started doing massage and I learned osteopathy. I did massage for 8 years. All my skills I just would do until because of loving getting into flow with things.
Yes.
I would just learn the music. It would be first it was yeah guitar, DJing, then sound engineering, then massage, then then um different types of massage, different dancing, and all the while still being very active socially, but sucked into party scenes and using up energy through wanting to be with people, and that's what they would do, and that was the normal. So I would get sucked into that too. I really enjoyed that time, but it was not healthy at parts to continue doing that, and it was again wearing me out at points. So, and I was fascinated by habit formation as well. So after that change, I was like, "Ooh, what else is possible to change?" Which is like, that means if there's things that people think that can't be changed, then there's other ways to get involved with. Like if the guitar, can I learn guitar? I can learn. What else can I learn? And what else can I change? So I was like, and what else is possible for humans to change? And it was like fascinated with habit formation ever since. And even listened to, I read a book called The Peaceful Warrior coming out of that time, that period of psychosis, and it mentioned about cutting out sugar because sugar was not helpful. And it just intuitively made sense. I had all these intuitive understandings, but not knowing how to explain why. And then that was way before science started saying sugar was bad, in so many ways. And I just chose to stop eating sugar at the age of 24, for a while. I was on and off again, but I did that off my own back just through reading the book because again, I was doing
Mhm.
kind of in the background exploration stuff that
Yeah.
just probably was a bit un. I didn't feel like I had anyone else to talk to about it, so I would just be doing it and testing it out on my own. And
Yeah.
so, so then when I studied osteopathy, at that point when I was burning out physically doing massage all the time because I just do things over and over again, I insisted on the dyslexia test, which was really interesting because I came up as mild, and the the neurotypical on a tired day could come up as mild. So they were like, look, we don't want to spend the time or the money testing someone that comes up as mild, very mild on a test, on a dyslexia test. And I was like, no, please. And I insisted twice before they went through with it. And I got diagnosed dyslexic at 30
Mhm.
in studying that. And I don't think I would have got through that master's level degree, 4 years of study, 5 years of study, because I was spending full time on what would take someone working part-time hours on to get to study stuff, you know, and the lead up to that, I'd be again, it's like so much time spent processing language just to keep up with what other people could do in 5 minutes would sometimes take me, an hour to
Yeah.
do. Um, so yeah, it's a theme in my life where I've intuitively known and then insisted or carried on with something and pursued it, and then things have caught up, which is difficult because when on my when there is that sort of intuition that comes back as evidently right, it's difficult to then not have what can be known as a spiritual complex, whereby it feels like the I told you so, and all the kind of um
Oh,
stuff that comes up, and which probably was part of that whole psychosis thing as well, which was like, am I now inventing? Am I prophesizing being broken and stuck? Because
yes.
my intuition was upset. So when I was getting into it, I was getting evidence that, and more evidence that things were broken
Yeah.
because that's what I'd been worried and decided about. So it's again, it's like our belief systems and then our feelings attached to them. So if
Yes.
we can go down a negative cycle unless we can catch it, and we can go up to positive cycle, but also positive cycle can also be unrealistic to
Hmm.
those around you. So you can end up feeling sort of separated, even though the whole point is to. Then if you feel separated, then that's not so doesn't feel it's not holistic again. So I was like really on a big journey trying to work all this stuff out. So as you can see that it's like that it's kind of not knowing as near that what neurodivergence was, finding out about it, and then having coaching that really helped to start exploring it and actually finding something that I actually was passionate about. Because osteopathy, I loved, and I loved doing it physically. I had to put it to the side to get the coaching going on, but I see the synergies of the philosophies of osteopathy and how it can and how coaching can help healthcare through this holistic and principles. So I don't see
Yes.
it as all. I see it as all working well together as a unit, and that's what I'm
Mhm.
striving for now. And that's why I got into coaching because it really helped me to be able to even learn to stay reflective and explain all these things in the first place. And that's just about because it's an emerging field. It's about just explaining and raising awareness in these times. Uh, and that's just the start because then it's like how how what's worked for me and all these self we can go into the self-care of how all the self-care patterns that I've been exploring for myself.
Yes.
It's still going to be like how will it land for others and how to because I've come from an understanding before testing things out. There's that whole thing of if you believe something or not. Uh,
Yes.
is
We've had this conversation a few times before, and I believe it's more like because we all come from different backgrounds, right? We all grow up from different families, different experiences, and then how we create beliefs. We are all individual and different. So, um, in the coaching academy, they taught us that in the holistic perspective, it's always about alignment, right? So, whatever the person they have to discover, they have to explore, they have to go through the things and the experiences, but they make those choices, they make those decisions. And we only guide to what feels more aligned to them. So it's very interesting the impact that you see when we're all so different when it comes to like holistic and self care because for each person, a self care routine is completely different from someone else. You know, if someone's religious or if someone is more universe, you know, or maybe someone is more like personal, you know, like personal self growth and improvement to them, that's self care. So it just depends on what their definition of self care may be. And then that is where we will align it to. So I think it's so interesting, you know, how important everyone needs to know this because there is no one right way of doing it. It's just exploring and discovering. And then, like how you mentioned, trying different habits, see what works for you. If it doesn't work for you anymore, try something different because things change, life changes. Um, so it's a very good self-care to me has been very important, especially for everyone, because everyone may see self-care as something as a luxury in like skincare or getting a massage. That may be so, but it doesn't always have to be in the most luxurious things. It can be in the most simplest of things, like reading a book, right? Riding a bike. So, or just spending outside in the garden, you know, just sitting there drinking some coffee or some tea, you know?
100%.
Yeah. So it just, to me, my self-care, how it looks like would be a lot of self-reflection, definitely journaling, music, you know? I love music. So I'm barely getting into the groove of getting back into music because I left that because I ended up, my studies ended up getting a lot in the way, but it's been interesting to see that it's coming back. And now I'm realigning myself and feeling all of that self-care and alignment. But yeah,
Brilliant.
many,
What? Oh,
what is your definition of self-care?
oh, yeah. Um, what's coming up for me right now, as you're sharing, self-care such can be such a box that a small box that some people don't necessarily think of that much, or they do, and they're trying to work it out, or it can be this massive, like you just said, massive wormhole of
Mm-hmm,
things to try out and do. And I love making things as simple as possible. Uh,
mm-hmm,
and just to tie this in really simply, because I know there's probably lots more to talk about as well, but it's
mm-hmm.
really simply this broad space of, you know, I like the word care because someone's got to realize or care. They got to care. They got to care. So
Yes.
to me, if they care and they're anxious, it's because they care, which is so if there's any symptoms that are coming up and they're worried about them, they care about it. So self-care is making sure there's an alignment in what work or finding out what works for the thing that's
Mm-hmm.
not not that it's a has to be a fixed readout of this is what's happening. It doesn't really matter what the
Right.
what some it does matter in some places to know what the diagnosis is, um, especially for emergencies. Um, so
Yes.
undoubtedly, there's the medical system which does some things that are really important to delve into. Self-care is everything else. So I think it's all the non-emergency stuff. So
Mhm.
self-care to me is non-emergency all the way through to, like, say, in some ways luxury. But what is actually luxury, really, at the end of the day? Luxury potentially is and overindulgence for some people. That's
Yes.
not necessary, but most of the time, the word luxury in itself is just like a sense of all-encompassing joy for the thing, the experience. So that's what everyone deserves, surely, in any self-care thing. So that's what you just said
Mhm.
about the just the smallest thing can be luxurious when it is
Yes.
really
Mhm.
being present to it. So the container of starting with care has to be urgency in making and care in caring, and then you've got like stuff that could be more playing around with, and there's what I would call management, which is becoming present to everything that needs the difference between needs and wants. Again, it's sort of so going from wanting to needing, um, and getting clearer on what needs are and what wants are, but they're both important in life.
Yes. I definitely agree. There was a question that was brought up to me a while ago because they asked, um, so do I have to pay more important to my needs or to my wants? And I said both, you know, because you have to align the both. It's not always one or the other. Yeah, in some situations, yes, but not. I've noticed that you have a need, but if you don't want it, it's not aligned, right? So how can you, um, to me, it's always about alignment, getting those two in alignment together, your want and your need, because you're more willing to take action on it, than doubt or debate, or fear that uncertainty, because I feel that's why people don't take action on certain things because of that, you know?
Yeah, and also I also believe that it's not
Mhm.
there's the clarities gets to be there as well with
Mhm.
what actually is needed and what is actually wanted compared to crossing over and thinking the wants of the needs and the needs of wants because um true needs will cause lack of fulfilling true needs will cause survival mode, like proper survival mode, and all the way through to detriment and death. True need
Yeah.
of air. Air is a true need. It's an actual true need, and all the way through to like expressing. So when I couldn't express myself, that was a true need, and it was I was baseline not knowing that was something that I could change. So therefore, it was a need that wasn't being met, and I couldn't. And I just wanted to um, understand why I was upset. So, and
Yeah.
that was because my need wasn't being met at the time. So yeah, so it's important to go. What is actually? And there's seven needs that I know of that are simple. Air, sleep, water, air, water, sleep, food, shelter, expression, and connection. Expression out and connecting to things. Um, if one of those is starved for any longer, then it's not going to be good for someone eventually. I want to say,
Yeah. How has your own neurodivergence shaped the way you approach life and coaching?
mm, yeah. How is it? It's shaped my life through me understanding the neuroscience of where the energy's being thought of is where it's landing, where it's growing. So I was
Mm-hmm.
able to then starting to look back and go, well, I love the understanding of neurodivergence, but I always like to keep things neutral because there can be negatives or positives attached to it that are either useful or not useful. Yeah, they are useful if they're aware of the negative so that we can look at balancing it out or working on the strengths or the weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
But that divergence is like a route or a pathway. So to me, the 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 root of neurodivergence is our experiences and what beliefs we've made it mean subconsciously that then connect to these needs and these wants. And so if the need is not being met in that moment for for the trigger of the thing that's experiencing in the moment, like sudden noise when someone can't stand sudden noises and other people can, so that's a learnt pattern. And so because if it was truly dangerous, it would be everyone would react in the same way. So a loud noise when it's is a learnt pattern. So it's a neurodivergence symptom of a neurodivergence in the brain. Uh, regard regardless of whether it's we're talking about whether it's possible to change or not, which I believe it's worthwhile looking into these things, see what is possible to change, and grow different responses where, if possible, if necessary. But that sense of what I learned about all this stuff was studying the neuroscience of a neurotypical brain and seeing where mine was lower or higher in readout of functionality and having that report at the same time. I was literally in the same year I studied what neurotypical was compared to what the readout at the time was for my brain. So I saw like high level reasoning and low level working memory. So I had this much capacity to take in information, take this information and put it through a hole. If I don't working memory, I don't to see the whole pattern, to just see it, I can imprint it, but to try and squeeze it through the communication and language to describe it was the bit that was difficult for me. So I wouldn't remember all the words that people were saying, but I get the concept that they were talking about. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's again, then I was like, well, what else is possible to change here? So I learned to speed read because I was suggested, why don't you try learning to speed read? So I watched 3 videos on how to speed read, and then I could speed read because I got the concept immediately, and I just tried it out, and I knew how to try it out. I just relaxed and I could speed read pretty much straight after watching 3 videos in a row. Um,
Wow.
it's about relaxation and not trying
Yeah.
and that seeing where we pick the information up anyway. I was like
Mm-hmm.
scanning pages on an article and going, okay, now let's just scan the article quickly, and then what do I need to know about this article? Is there anything useful about it that's related to the topic? Okay. And immediately I was able to hone in on a paragraph that had that bit about that topic and go, is that relevant to that? No, it's not. Okay. Throw that paper away. Or that one's great. Oh yeah, I see that one. That means I can go into it further and spend time on it. So
Mm-hmm.
zooming out was so much I was using my skill of zooming out and seeing what was relevant and what wasn't before going into the details and so that's not just with the reading and writing, that was learning that that was possible with lots of different areas of pattern recognition. And so yeah, that's how it's kind of helped me in a lot
Yeah.
of ways is I can go, okay, right, well, reflective practice and really helped. I started to be able to actually read that wasn't speed reading, I was able to take in more and more information because I wasn't making myself wrong, or it was like wasn't it was it's like going up if I go up a flight of stairs really quickly physically, it's really tiring if I'm not used to doing it,
Hmm. Yeah.
especially if I'm like this feeling of challenge is dangerous. If I thought it was dangerous or making myself wrong whilst doing it, I'm going to go up the stairs and then not attempt to do it any further because it's going to feel even worse. So, but if I'm like going up and down the stairs, even though it's tiring, it's actually good for me, or that I have to do it for a particular goal, like studying or something, and get stuff done, then if I do it more, I get stronger at it. So I was like, whoa, okay, yeah. What else can I get stronger at?
Yeah. It's amazing what you can do, right? It's just finding what works, you know? And you managed to I mean, I congratulate on your progress and your process in figuring all this out because I can only imagine the frustration, especially when you come across those few that have misconceptions, right? Or don't understand neurodivergence, right? Or how do you say, not very patient. I've come across those, a lot of those, the very impatient. What misconceptions do you wish more people understood about neurodivergence?
Hmm, amazing question. The misconceptions for neurodivergence is potentially that it's one is that it's fixed, and maybe some of it, like what I've noticed, is there's still those patterns that don't shift as much. Like if I'm more tired or more cognitively overwhelmed, or if I haven't given myself a break, then trying to push into doing more reading, writing, um, too much. I mean, you have to feel into that uncomfort, like going to the gym to achieve to achieve getting stronger at reading and writing. Um, but I did it, and and so it's like I still notice every day that there's there's things like I've had to like entrepreneurialism is really useful for me because it's the ideas I want to share, and the things I want to bring that bring my passion and my purpose, and it gives me the time to develop those ideas at the same time as do all of the energy stuff. And again, there's different people. Some people thrive off being with others and organizing stuff. I love solitary and collaborative, or being with,
Mhm,
but I can't do too much of each for too long.
mhm,
So like ambiverted. But there's times when I'm resting so much in order to get get a high level leverage on what I am bringing, to put the to the level of that I learned how to like get a book out in 90 days, through a wonderful mentor and colleague, Kay Reeve, um and she, she had all the steps.
mhm.
So what's possible to achieve is misconception is another one. Yeah, so it comes back round to another one being that it's all got to be done on our own, and that it's a solitary fight because of it being, um yes, we're responsible for our own lifestyle choices and health and all that stuff. We don't necessarily grow as fast or change without connection and collaboration on these things and mentorship and things like that. So it's automatically, it's automatically um, taught to us through media and old school paradigms of business that it's, you've got to push it ahead with your own ideas on your own and all that stuff. And this is where it comes back round to like where I'm going to go with my business is eventually once I've got it rolling, it's going to be a collaborative piece. It's going to be
Mhm.
test test pilot of groups of entrepreneurs all helping each other
Mhm.
to release things. They release their own projects, but also it's almost like cross breeding business together as well. So multiple. Anyway, so yeah, so that those misconceptions is doing it, do it, seeing what's not possible to seeing what's not possible to change, and also have to do it on our own. And another misconception. Oh, there's probably many. Yeah. If it pops up, I will let you know again.
Yeah.
They're the two major ones, I think.
Mhm. What unique strengths do you see in your neurodivergent clients that often go unnoticed?
Mm. To them, that's the thing. So, like I was saying before, that it goes unnoticed to them as well as maybe those around them. I think the extra sensory perception, as it were, of intuition, and where they are awesomely caring, sensitive beings, and it can come across when they are upset. It can come across as uh again, it can come across as people pleasing or feeling like victimized and all these things that can come up around it, and then it looks like uh they get judged for it, and yeah, that's fascinating to remind them that they can be in control of their own forgiveness and
Yes.
what I call forgiftance. Because sometimes it's down to them to learn how to forgive other stuff going on,
Right.
and also how that um yeah, for them, their superpower is in their empathy that they have, and it's often misguided into sympath. I call it sympathic.
Yes.
They become sympathic, which is to automatically assume the feelings of other people's energy, and that is again something that can be a misconception that that's empathic.
Mhm.
The negative charge is empathy, which I don't believe it is. Empathy is actually essentially neutral power that can spark incredible things positively, but it can also cause a lot of stress negatively. So yeah, coming back round to that is important. This is more the highly sensitive beings and people, deep feelers. Uh,
Yes.
on the other side is
Mhm.
the hyposensitive, and that's okay too. That's just it's the it's the other end of the scale, as it were, in terms of. But then they're probably sensitive in a different way, a rational way. And so it's remembering that the misconception is that, and it's across all human beings, this automated judgment processes that we all have to protect our systems that then boils out into that they are like this or they're like that, and that's the way it is. And that's and the strength is in being able to adapt as well. So their adaptability in the moment is great. You know, more ADHD style symptoms is that they can actually flip between one thing to another really quickly.
Yeah.
So being adaptable is actually quite good because as long as they can keep adapting back to neutral and non-judgmental. So for
Yeah.
self, yeah.
So it just depends on where they land on the neurodivergent spectrum,
Mm.
what their strengths might show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because me, I'm like what you mentioned, the deep feeler kind. So I can feel things really deeply. I can have some pretty deep conversations. So that's what I've noticed about myself. Many neurodivergent individuals experience sensory sensitivities. How do these sensitivities impact self-care practices or routines, or even skincare routines?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So it can impact it negatively. These sensitivities, it can impact negatively if the sensations are too strong, too quick, which
Mhm.
can be to avoid anything uncomfortable because it feels too strong to attempt something new that feels too different to what's. So it's recognizing that and helping to slow down and try things out on a more simple scale. So, for instance, breath hold work is something that's completely changed my life, and
Mhm.
can't wait to help others with that. I've only just got to a point where I can potentially even describe how to go about that when there's such sensitivities, because going from breath holding can go from comfortable to like, oh no, I'm running out of air to the sensation of anxiety so
Yeah.
quickly that the breath hold doesn't really push past a certain limit because it just pushes it out too quick. So it took me a long time, a lot, not a long time, a lot of repetition. It's easy to say a long time when actually time is just there. It's a particular thing, and it's how often and how regular and how committed and how intent what the intention is and all those things. So sensitivities can be used to the advantage as well, because with mindfulness is the access point to changing habits. So for self-care, it's all about habit formation. So as long as it's understood that that exquisite sensation of touch can feel so powerful, as long as we're priming the brain for positivity. And I mean that from a placebo effect of positivity. It doesn't have to be happy, happy, joy, joy, completely excited, overwhelmed, overwhelmingly happy kind of thing, which um, it's a sliding scale. Again, it can go there really quickly, but actually, what the dopamine detox stuff does is um make um make smaller doses of enjoyable things feel bigger. When taking away the dopamine, when it's get used to it, you want more, 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 more to get, taking this much and it feels like this. When you reduce the dopamine, you have this much and it feels like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so
That's interesting.
yeah, so the dopamine for like the reward of what feels good compared to what
Mhm.
doesn't feel good. So it's always worth building on the strengths and the sensitivities, what feels good, but also abstaining from it. from a lot of stimulation first actually helps to desensitize that learned pattern of that being full on. That is like the norm. uh, and then and then not having it for a while, fasting. It can be hunger, it can be food fasting, or it can be fasting away from any kind of sensation. And because again, someone can get fixated as well on the need for that thing to, a lot of that thing.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
like addictive processes. So yeah, it's knowing what it's not a case of if or what is being addicted to, because in
Yes.
the addictive process is kind of what our belief systems are about. So it's like reducing it down and then choosing what to get back into afterwards helps with the sensitivities to self-care. So it really, it's not about what is good. It's about, first of all, reducing it all and then choosing and trying something out minimally in small, tiny, irregular doses. And so
Yeah.
how that relates to maybe skin as well. But that's fascinating, that whole thing of the skin can be um the representation of how the nerve system's acting generally.
Mhm.
Um, even skin areas can relate to areas of the spine um, that is affected. It can be uh, and it or like overall um, yeah. Well, there's that. How do I describe it? Um, I think it comes down to that's it's the individual as well with the skin care, but circadian rhythms, the right amount of sunlight, not avoiding it, building up, having some but not too much, and circadian rhythms on the light to create the melatonin, all that kind of stuff is beneficial, and vitamin C, all the vitamins, making sure they're in as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I read a lot where I see in people's posts where even and the people that talk to me, they tell me that they sometimes struggle incorporating their skincare routines at night or when they're traveling. Um, so when they go out and travel, they're just too tired and they just won't do it. So they sleep with makeup on and everything. um, so this kind of tells me like mm, it could possibly not be neurodivergent related, but I do notice that some people do procrastinate to do it and they just don't want to for whatever the reason, but they want to do it. But when it comes to doing it, they know they need to do it. They know it's important to do it, but they just don't want to do it. Kind of like sleep, where people are like, I want to sleep. I know it's important for me. I need to sleep. I got to go to sleep. I got to go to bed now. But when they try to go to bed, they don't go to bed. And it's interesting. It's like that. It's pretty much the same thing. So, what role do daily habits like sleep, nutrition, and hydration play in both mental well being and skin health?
Wow, so much. Yeah, it's like that sums up uh to me it can really boil down to the bioelectrical charges of our
Yeah.
nervous system and muscle systems and electricity. There's the whole idea of bioelectricity and how muscles will fire if one set of electrons are going down in the center of the muscle, then
Okay.
there has to be a opposite charge going the opposite way, traveling, and whereby if that gets skew if a bit, or over time there's less electrons from hydration because hydration is helping with electrons, electrolytes, hydrate.
Okay.
Hydrate comes from hydrogen ions, which is the sort of the fluid version of bioelectricity. Uh, and then so then we've got um, you mentioned uh, hydration. Bit which one? What other ones?
Sleep and nutrition.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I mean, yeah. So even just firstly on the hydration part, it's not just water. It's what is put in the water. It's what is shouldn't be in the water, like
yeah,
filtering out. Um, that all can all make a little bit of difference. And again, it's not about worrying about one particular thing that I've noticed again, and where we can prime the brain for what is known. When I say placebo effect, it's important to bear in mind that that's happening all the time. We're always thinking we're making choices to make sure we're doing things that we think are good for us, even when we're doing something that we think is bad for us.
right.
Even in an addictive process, there is an urge that's been learned that goes, that is what I need to feel better. So it always comes back down to that there's a placebo effect in that thing, deep placebo effect in that every action we take.
Wow.
Otherwise, we'd be running away from everything all the time. Uh,
Yeah,
so, like, if you can get really deep with it and say like everything is being chosen. Nothing is random. Everything, all the different things you can see in this room are placed there for some reason, and it's not been placed there because, oh, that's bad for me to put it there. So, so there's everything we choose is based on looking out for ourselves in some way, shape, or form. So, and when we have a nocebo effect, when we think that there's something going on that is bad for us or it's dangerous, when we believe it, not when it's actually if it's actually dangerous and we don't know, that could also um that could we could not know because our nervous system thinks we're okay if we don't know. But if we do believe something is bad for us, we'll have a reaction.
a discomfort, right?
Yeah,
A little anxiety.
all the way through to anxiety.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
even the anxiety is then the effect of wanting to protect, which is a good thing. So
Yeah.
it's fascinating how it's going from safety to danger all the time. Um, and I'm going off on a tangent here a little bit, but that it's back to like uh hydration is important, and it can also be grounding. It can be other things to do with getting bioelectrical charge in our system. And then what we do with that is in the day we use that energy up. And then sleep is obviously so important for regulating the nervous system. Even there's a thing called non-sleep deep rest, which doesn't have to be um, deep sleep. It's still incredibly useful if someone is not think if they think again if they're having a nocebo effect of I'm not getting enough sleep, and then that in itself causes more broken sleep. Um, it's okay. Smaller goes on sleep is great. 3 hours deeper sleep is fine for a few hours. As long as there's more later. It doesn't have to be all in one. It's better to get it so it is all in one. But 2 4 hour sleeps, one at night and one later on in the afternoon, that's okay, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so sleep is a massive one to understand that all as much as rest, all different types of rest is important. I like to just remind that can also be just resting away from whatever it is. uh, Emotional rest, creative rest, spiritual rest, all those there's lots of different types of rest to look into. And then nutrition, yeah, again, we touched on some of these things already, and it's a big topic. Um,
Yeah, definitely big, expansive. It's like we need to do this again so we can just talk about specifically that.
yeah, yeah. Um, One thing I would like to say that's helped me for
Yeah.
sure is what we studied in the typical. I studied the flow state science stuff.
Mhm.
So, and that's this. I like to remind again, science is really interesting because science is neurotypical. No matter what it is, it's always looking for a typical pattern in life or things, so that we can make sense of the world. What is normal, so that we know what is not normal. And but that doesn't mean it's abnormal. It's just different. And so the science is useful, but it doesn't apply to me specifically until I try it out, like we talked about again before. So so flow meals and ritual meals, we can we can um not even necessarily need ritual meals other than for that, again, that need of connection with others. And you can make them healthy, but and they are filling. They're very filling, and they need rest afterwards. Whereas with flow meals, they don't need as much rest afterwards. You can carry on doing cognitive work or doing other things. So I just have celery just hanging about because I'll just eat celery whilst working, or I'll just stop and go, I am hungry now. I'll eat celery. I've got carrots, nuts,
Mhm.
all the things that give protein, fats, and nutrition. Um, so yeah, and it doesn't um drain me throughout the day for the things that for the tasks I want to get done. And then maybe I'll have one bigger meal where I'll rest for 20 minutes, 30 minutes afterwards, just to give it give it that time to for the heavier lifting of the digestion. So that again, that if that helps, that's I think that's quite a useful, important thing to bear in mind, that it doesn't have to be a particular way. Um
Yeah,
Yeah, what to leave out is, as much as possible is refined foods, refined sugars, refined um things like that, processed, too much processed stuff. So,
agreed. Definitely agree. In your experience, how does building self-acceptance and reducing shame affect how people care for their bodies?
mm, wow. So self-acceptance and
Reducing shame.
reducing shame, yeah. Wow, yeah. It's a big topic again with the whole reducing shame, because it can be such an automatic pattern of not feeling like fitting in for so long in society, that
Mhm.
even letting go of the conscious stories, and even working subconsciously for a long time, they all still waft up here and there again and again and again. And what could be called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, as a term that is important to recognize if it is a real problem. It's also not necessarily useful to label and say I have this, and I it's stuck in me kind of thing, because it is possible to work on. But yeah, it's a consistent process of being reminded of stuff from the past. So allowing it, there's this idea of acceptance. And it's not. not just to stop there, but it's the start there, which is acceptance, allow, relax, surrender, and then the tenacity, the drive to convert. So I like to say there's accept, convert, adapt. Um, Acceptance first is just to be okay with whatever's there that's coming up, and then converting it once it's back to neutral and calm down, because trying to do something or fight whilst feeling it doesn't help. So it's allowing it to subside to the point of then converting it, because then the energy is ready to convert it. It's like some people say, oh, was it Einstein? I hear that it was Einstein who says, don't attempt to deal with a problem inside the problem, because when we're inside it, we're just going to find more evidence and more challenges to try and break that problem down into smaller parts. So if you're feeling shame, trying to fight against it, it's just relax, breathe, wait for it to calm down, notice the stories attached to it, and then and then convert the energy. What's the new story? What's the new story? Um,
I
self,
always like to include in this situation the honesty, right? Sometimes I've come across those few that don't like to be honest with themselves. They don't like to be honest on some things. So the honesty without the self-criticism and the self-judgment is another thing also to include with what you're saying, because it's hard not to judge yourself when you're hard on yourself. So I always um, find it interesting that honesty without self-judgment and self-criticism is so crucially important, especially if you're the type of person who's always um, criticizing yourself or always down talking yourself,
yeah,
you know, when something shows up.
yeah, and it's just
Mm.
I have a framework that I like to remind people of. 4 R's: recognize, refresh, rehearse, and then result. So the first two is recognize and refresh. Recognize, just recognize what's going on, and then refresh and calm down and clear. But and to make a decision, we've got to recognize it enough so it doesn't keep coming up and
Yes.
then again and again and again stronger. So it's not just like,
Mhm.
there it is again, let go. There it is again. That's better than nothing, but there it is again. Right, I'm really, really sitting with it and being present to that feeling that comes up, and this starting to consciously tell the subconscious that it's okay to let go of the story that's connected to the feeling. And so that's enough recognition rather than just like, ah, it's like having that posture thing where if it keep slumping again, ah, and then sort of recognizing,
Yeah.
but but being upset with myself for forgetting and going back into it is part of that process of, like you just said. So not then self-criticizing on top of the criticism. So
Just
yeah,
being present with it, like with the feeling. It's like the mindfulness part of it, right? Just being present with it, not no details, no nothing, but just hearing it out. It's kind of like sitting down, having tea with your feelings and your emotions and be like, okay, now get up. I go about my day.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the shame and the self-acceptance. So it goes from shame to self-acceptance, and then what was it in response to as well? What was it connected to?
Um, Shame, I believe. Reducing shame.
Yeah, but for what there was what was the question? There was something else that was connected in my mind.
How does building self-acceptance and reducing shame affect how people care for their bodies?
Yeah, so
That's
caring for their bodies. Um, yeah, it's we've mentioned before tying in that judgment piece, but reducing, catching, recognizing, refreshing, then rehearsing um is that converting and adaptation happens anyway. Adapting will happen if we're staying stuck to more of that. So adapting happens. So accept and convert by recognize, refresh, rehearse, result um, is really yeah, self-acceptance, and it's that sense of I think the exploration, the curiosity to notice that different moods will create different stories about or feelings about
Mhm.
what we look like you said, body acceptance, body wisdom, but body wisdom, body accept, body knowledge. So one day, if I'm looking tired and I notice, oh, I'm tired, you know, um, I could it could literally be like washing my face and jumping up and down on the spot, and then I can look again and it'd be like, hey, hey, you know. So it's no, it's noticing that it's practicing. When I say exploration to practice, just noticing that there's skills and strengths and that it's possible to change based on staying neutral, coming back to neutral to before working on something. And yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
I love what you said, exploring with curiosity. That right there, explore with curiosity is like what's really important in anything, especially when building daily habits or routines. Explore it with curiosity, enjoy it, be mindful in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Love that. Do you see a link between emotional regulation and how people perceive their skin or body image?
That's pretty much what we just said, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. So that
yeah.
answer, that was the answer. Emotional regulation, noticing, um, and that it is possible to regulate. Maybe some people may not realize that it's possible to regulate. And that's that slowing down, noticing, processing, neutralizing, and then re-exploring. It it doesn't have to be that it should be like cheering yourself on in front of the mirror every single morning. Uh,
Mhm.
it doesn't fit if it feels kind of fake. It's it's but sometimes it does get to be done when it feels uncomfortably unfamiliar to do something like that. I
Yeah.
think it's still important, but it's not again fighting, noticing the fighting. So come back to neutral and then see what 1% you can find to like about something
That's a good start.
in
Yeah.
the body, and just expand on that and just be with it enough for it to be a muscle of like, oh yeah, even if it's not how it looks, it's just, oh yeah, actually, it starts to become gratitude for to be able to experience picking something up, picking up this and having a drink.
Yep.
There we go. Oh yeah, and posture. That's one other thing. So if I if I go like this, I feel pretty good, and
Yeah.
and it starts
Actually feels good.
it passes it on too, which is nice. So yeah, but
Yeah.
that
I'm
sense of
pretty sure people are doing it at home, watching it.
Yeah. If I even try and say I'm really angry, that's what it's not about the language. So
Yeah.
we get to remember that it doesn't have to be about the language that will affect our deepest urges and
Mhm.
senses. Although that helps again if I say yes, I'm going to be courageous today, but it's the action of the energy of like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do today. You know,
Yeah.
if I don't do that and just go, I'm going to be really courageous today. But yeah,
Which a lot of us do, by the way, unintentionally, because we don't think there's other ways of expressing it. But,
yeah.
you know,
Sometimes we need to just get the handcuffs on that are attached to strings and then go like this. Force my arm on the air and go, come on, let's go.
what role does self-compassion and self-acceptance play in your coaching?
Oh, a huge amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. What level, in fact, it's pretty much in most sessions, um, in order to get present to what's coming up, be okay with it, recognize it, refresh, and then if it's really strong stuff, then it's one of the only ways it can be converted, firstly and foremost. So, and again, it's like that sense of if I do that and I feel it, I will feel it because I'm doing it, and and vice versa. It builds on it. It's the same as if it's unfamiliar to um, self-acknowledge through compassion. Then, but it can still be guided to until it's like, oh yeah, I feel better now that I did that. Connecting and feels unfamiliar until it feels familiar. So, and any of these things are skills, and so it's at the root of again self-judgment or judging outwardly can't exist at exactly the same time as feeling true empathy or true curiosity. So these are all mental fitness principles which I'm so glad that I came across. Um, and I just studied it for like a year and a half non-stop. I gave it about 3 to 5 weeks break at one point, but every single day other than that, I was studying the philosophies behind it and the practices because it was gamified as well in the app. It was brilliant. It was like I want to get to the highest score possible.
Yeah. Well, you found it entertaining and fun, but yet also very insightful, right? Yeah.
Extremely, yeah.
What has been one of your most memorable or rewarding client transformations?
Oh, oh, there's a few that I'm just blown away by. Um, I one specifically, I just uh, it's almost like I couldn't have made it up. Couldn't have made it up. What was declared actually happened, but it wasn't. I wasn't. We both weren't in an expectation of that happening. It was just declared at the start. So to put it even briefly, we worked for 6 months, and there was anxiety. There was some bad habits. There was trouble with family. There was lack of creative flow and creativity that was going on. Um, Even before I was started to really explore creative flow state trainings and the science behind it, we were just looking at habits and trying out the modality that helped me somatically, um, and the mental fitness stuff. So, and there was also job dissatisfaction. as well. So there was like a declaration of wanting to actually go and um kite surf, learn to kite surf train, become a kite surf trainer. Um, but they'd done it when they were young, really young, and took it for granted and kind of wanted to explore rest of life and sort of left it behind. And then, but they were a bit scared to go back and do it because it was like, well, what if I'm not strong enough to do it? Or what if this, what if that? Um, and So yeah, to put it briefly and bluntly, with the deep sessions we were doing, it's helping to get connected to self-compassion and stuff. So uh, after the very first session, in the very first week, smoking was given up. She just gave up smoking immediately.
Wow.
She wasn't planning on that. She didn't even de declare it, but she knew that it was part of the process. She just stopped. So it must have been she was thinking about it. Then her anxieties were going up and down, but she started to cover anxiety and get into creativity, um, and find creative things to do. The the So throughout this process, that was going up and down, and she left the job she was working for, and she completely randomly, she said randomly, bumped into a lady who just said, I love your energy. I want you to work for me. She's like an entrepreneurial lady, and she just offered her a job that was the highest paid job she'd ever got. Uh,
Wow.
and she had a dream salary that was written in her purse for years, and it was that salary. And so she landed this job. So job satisfaction came through, or the money and the job thing came through um, and the she could have got addicted to the work because it was so high levelly played paid. After 2 months, and even then she had to sort of stop the coaching for a bit. She wanted to stop because the work was so intensive and it was getting a bit much. So it was almost like, what's gonna happen? I was like, what's gonna happen? Is she gonna come back? What's going on here? Uh, but she she worked for 2 months, and then the job the lady broke down because she was really manic, and
Mhm.
the situation broke down. So it's out of her control, it stopped, and it was exactly the amount of money she needed to um, do a eco house building course that she really wanted to do. That's been planning for a while, and she got into like creative and pottery and all these really cool activities whilst throughout this process. And then she also had the money to go and book to go and become a kite surfing instructor in and so uh the day after our last session, after 6 months, she was flying to Italy to study the kite surfing instruction that she said right at the start. And so uh, I I couldn't really have wanted for anything more myself, well, because it was exactly what she wanted. So I was just a conduit, I just wasn't really consulting at all. I was literally just helping her come to her own conclusions and connect to herself and get back into creative flow. And she found all those opportunities somehow along the way. So
Yeah.
it's
It's like it's like they already have all the answers, right? They have all the answers. They gotta find it, you know? And that's what makes coaching so rewarding, because it's like seeing their changes even after that one session, whether it's a sigh, breathing, a smile on their face, like that just really makes it rewarding. When you're not coaching, what practices or rituals help you feel grounded and supported? I know you mentioned somatic therapy,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, somatic coaching. Um, yeah,
Somatic coaching.
yeah. So that's what worked for me was talking to my brains and my body. Well, not me. It was coaching, and I was able to answer from these areas and reconnect stuff. It was a lot of NLP as well, and which is it was based around that, but more of the philosophies of that from a from an embodied perspective, and a lot of other techniques. Amazing coach, uh, and so yeah. Outside of all of that, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna I want to write about this. This is my sort of next level program that I want to put together is helping people to explore all these things.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do? There's self-guided. When I say self-guided, it's become self-guided through following YouTube self-hypnosis meditations and guided meditations, and there's different types. I call it passive and active meditation. And that's not necessarily just active as in doing something and staying mindful, but passive being to practice clearing and noticing all the judgment and the thoughts and the feelings without making meaning or just letting go and coming back to passively listening for stillness and connecting to the wider connectivity. And then active being, what do I want to see myself doing? So active meditation being around that process. So I do that. So there's active and passive meditation. There's breath hold work. There's um, heart variability breath work. There's grounding and my own lymphatic health exercise, lymph jam stuff that help put together for I and my former partner at the time who uh, needed help with her autoimmune condition as well. So, and the pandemic was coming along, and so many other factors to why it was important to learn how to move in a way in which didn't cause aches or pains. So it was more gentle, going from Qigong philosophies and uh, into dancing with the lymph.
Yeah.
So a mixture of my passions for dance, qigong, and moderately graded exercise to work with the free zone of movement. Um, so there's yeah, my fascination with yoga since 20 20 20 2010. No, yeah, 2010. So yeah, it's a mixture of yoga, qigong, breath work, uh, dance. There's like for more neurodivergent stuff, there's like those kind of frequency, brainwave frequency style, prolonged music that can be useful for focus and all that cool stuff. And so I do that. Um,
I never knew that stuff worked until I tried it. I was like, oh, wow. Wow, this is impressive.
yeah, really
Yeah.
useful. Um,
Hmm.
there's humming, and I don't do mantra stuff as such, but it's the principle of the root of that, which is just to hum at frequencies and feel where it lands in my body. That stuff is amazing for clearing stuff. Feels like clearing physical tensions in the body. Um, there's taping my mouth at night to stop CO2 getting lost. There's power down rituals, which is saying,
Mhm.
imagining what my day will look like and how I want to look after myself the next day, and telling myself I'm gonna have a good night's sleep. And um, there's real affirmational work, which is not just necessarily just trying stuff out, but really getting present and emotionally convicted to what it feels like to say those words and declare things in the moment with the I am statements. And then there's what I call I am in the AM, which is found has been foundational, which is to learn to practice immediately saying my statements that I want to say as an I am statement as soon as I wake up, so that and then breathe and relax, so that I don't, it tells my brain to not just do this or that or get stuck in problem solving
Mhm.
immediately, uh, to go to stay in flow and relaxation. It's a lot of vagal nerve toning exercises, all those kind of things. Self massage, uh, a lot
Yeah.
of stretching and um, shoulder rolling, and um, yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. It's getting more and more refined, but yeah. Then on the more advanced tip, for those that are more creatively minded,
Yeah.
uh, I'm developing a 5D system, a 5 daily Ds. Uh, and so that's all about uh, how to manage the day well by preempting and designing, spending some time before jumping into the, the fourth one. The fourth one is drive, and a lot of people will just go, right, get on with things. And as soon as they wake up, they jump to drive, and there's like dreaming, actively dreaming, the active meditation, dream, drop, relax, let go. What do I get to let go of? What do I get to not do? Who do I get to delegate to? All the
Mhm.
dropping, releasing, dream, drop, draw it out. What would it look like? Driving. Then as soon as it's drawn out, it's more simple. I can just follow, get in the car, I know where I'm going, so I can just drive and stay focused on that. And then dancing. So that's all about dancing and playing with the ideas, the chaos that comes along that gets in the way, the fluidity of it. Uh, so yeah, that's a much better to-do list to me for me. It works so much better than a to-do list.
Yeah, I see what you're saying because I would have like a routine in the morning even before I would start my day. I had to because there's a lot that goes on in my head. So in the morning, I would have to start off with a good ritual of having to answer at least three important questions before I start my day. And then once I clear that out in the air, do go about my day. If something comes up, I will be okay not to address it then, but to address it at the end of the day because I have more questions at the end of the day to reflect on, to answer, think about how my day went, what I wanted, what I didn't want, how I want the following day to look like, so I have like a good hour or two session with myself to see how I can improve it and make it better. But that's how I go about it, usually as a routine. But that has helped immensely, immensely. And then in the morning, I even attached a gratitude journal, or just writing a piece of paper what I'm grateful for, and just attach it somewhere so I can remember this is what I'm grateful for today, you know? Something else pops up, write it down. But it's just, that's what has helped me throughout the days, which I hope would help any others, listening. Because it is important. It is important to find that self-care for yourself and do that reflection. What works for you? How do you want to show up for the day? You know,
Mm,
um, because all of that stuff is important.
very much so.
Yeah. So we're about getting ready to a close. What advice would you give someone who suspects they may be neurodivergent but hasn't fully embraced that identity yet?
Hmm, it's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
And firstly, does it matter? Very, very first thing is, does it matter to know or not? I didn't think it mattered to know. It's really helped because if someone's suspecting potentially and they want to know, there's probably something around that they're struggling with something or upset about something and frustrated or and so getting clarity on it is worthwhile doing. It can take time or money
Right.
or whatever it takes to make that happen. So whatever it takes, then if it's important, then yes, get check for diagnoses. Also to go that it's going to be like a, a snapshot in time based on what's experienced through the testing. So even if it's not, it doesn't necessarily mean and there's upset, then that upset is a real experience that gets to be addressed anyway. So so it's okay for it to be a diagnosis and have neurotypical understandings of that diagnosis because even when it's fed back, it's what is it? It's based on neurotypical scientific evidence of what's commonly known about a particular cohort of neurodivergent symptoms, i.e., i.e., dyslexia, ADHD, autism, bipolar, Tourette's, whatever it is that is potentially diagnosed is what it t untypically stands out at against what is typically known to be normal. So all of that is relevant only as data, only as feedback. I like to say everything is feedback and nothing is fixed on whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you have data to do with something, you can do something with it or not. And then you can make good of the bad by becoming present to it. So then it's a good thing that you found out about that, but it's not necessarily a good thing if you don't find out about it and you wanted to find out about it. If you, it could be a good thing to not explore it and don't fix something that doesn't feel broken. Um, all these kind of ideas. So, put it simply, find out what you want to find out and get second opinions, speak to those, find out what's commonly known. But again, it's all just like, okay, real life lived experience compared to what is known as from they're both useful. All perspectives from all areas are useful, and then find out what works and build on those strengths. And then look at the weaknesses rather than trying to look at the weaknesses first, like, oh, I'm not good at this inside the problem. It can just cause more difficulty and certainly find the right resonant person for the support to help along the way because it's not about a one-way route and or competitionally self-comparison stuckness.
Yeah, that can definitely happen, huh? What's a message you want neurodivergent individuals and the people who love them to take away from this conversation?
Um,
Talked a lot.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's a good question. I'd like to say, if necessary, have a conversation or re go over this if there were things to repeat, find the bits that work, try them out. What feels intuitive from a neutral space, not space, get calm, relax, look at the information and go, what makes sense to me, and try that stuff out and find someone that's done it to speed that process up if it's specifics. Um, but yeah, to take away is just to know, have that curiosity. What else is possible to change? And what else is possible to actually fix onto and develop? Because that's the opposite of change, is to build on something for long enough to see a result. You know, the farmer mentality of growing something. It's not just put it in the ground and then go, why is it not changed or why is it
Yeah,
not grown? You know, so that's that sense of sometimes things go up and down. Mood is non-linear, whereas growth eventually it kind of is in a lot of ways. Even if it doesn't feel like it's changing. So yeah.
yeah. How can people connect with you or learn more about your work?
Well, they're watching it on my channels at this time. If it's the video and you're sharing it as well, then I go by my name's Rory Lemon, or Rory Lemon AID, to help, and I go by Rory Lemonade online, and that's searchable on any platforms, uh, for the socials and YouTube and any of those. Or I've got Rory at lemonaid.xyz, lemonaid.xyz, um, as an email address as well.
That's awesome. Rory, thank you so much for letting me interview today. I hope all of you have really gotten some insightful information here today. I know there was a lot, but it was something that, Rory and I have been talking about for a while, you know? And of course, we'll probably come up here again somewhere, sometime. But I just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to like interview you, Rory, and everyone else here that's listening. So y'all have a fabulous, wonderful day. And if y'all need to rewatch the video, feel free to do so. There's lots of insightful information in there.
Mm.
Um, so
Amazing, Claudia. Thank you so much for your wonderful presence and curiosity and help to raise awareness with all these topics. Um, yeah, and it's Rocking Beauty Boss.
yes, that
Yeah,
is correct.
yeah,
Mhm.
amazing, amazing, amazing. Holistic approaches to skincare. So, yeah,
Yes.
and self-care in general.
And self-care, yes, overall wellness. So I also do a lot of interviews as well for those of you who are interested. Feel free to follow me on YouTube. I also have a Facebook, Rocking Beauty Boss. I have an Instagram at Rocking Beauty Boss. This will be part of the Skin Talk sessions. So they will be uploaded on YouTube.
Mm.
Thank you
Uh,
so much.
and I love any highlights, comments, feedback, and useful insights when we have an insight, repeat it back out. It
Yes.
causes more memory to remember things later. So, and shares it with others with the algorithms to help other people see cool stuff that they want to potentially decide for themselves what they want to create with it. So thank you, and
Yeah.
stay